I'll give just a quick history of the First Fridays. It's really something that has grown into an event that we think adds to the community life of Greenville, where you're able to bring in speakers like Andy Monin and others that can share their success stories. The idea originated where the MBA program, Clemson's MBA program, and the Spiro Institute would partner and provide a venue for students and the community to engage with individuals that have an expertise around leadership or entrepreneurship. And it's grown to the point that we think that it's a significant event, and we're very proud of that. So thank you all for coming. We hope that we can continue to grow this. We've got this beautiful space now. If you haven't been here, welcome. And continue to make this a signature event for Clemson University and the town of Greenville. My name's Greg Pickett, and I'm the Senior Associate Dean for the College of Business and Behavioral Science. Part of my responsibilities, I serve as the MBA Director and the Director for this facility, Greenville 1. I want to thank our sponsors. UBJ, the Upstate Business Journal, has helped promote this event, so we're very thankful for them. Chick-fil-A on Orange Road will be providing some of the refreshments and snacks this evening, so thank you, Chick-fil-A. This event, if you haven't been, this event lasts about 40 minutes or whenever Andy gets through talking, and we'll have a few minutes for questions and answers. It's really nice to have this a little bit less formal. So I would encourage you, after Andy offers his thoughts, if you have a question or something that you would like to know, please just raise your hand and we'll recognize you. So let me give just a little bit of history of Andy Monin. Andy is a technology entrepreneur that has successfully started and exited 2 companies. He was the founder and chief executive officer of VendorMate, Inc. He was responsible for the overall strategic direction and vision of the organization with a focus on business development and new product creation. VendorMate was acquired by GHX in November of 2014. 2014 was a very good year for Andy. VendorMate is the premier provider of vendor management solutions to over 2,000 U.S. hospitals. In 2010, VendorMate was recognized by Inc. 500 magazine as the #1 fastest growing private software company in the U.S., number 25 overall, and was named one of the best places to work by Modern Healthcare in 2012. Prior to VendorMate, Andy co-founded BroadSource, a telecommunications expense management software and solutions company. He has held various sales and marketing positions for global telecommunications companies, Incom, Cable and Wireless, and MCI. He's an active leader at his alma mater, Clemson University, where he graduated with a BA in political science and was a 4-year letterman on the Clemson baseball team. In 2010, he was named to the Clemson University Arthur Spiro Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership Hall of Fame, and he also serves on its board. We just got through with about a 6 or 7 hour meeting, so cut Andy a little slack today. He may be tired. In addition, he serves on the Advanced Technology Development Center ATDC Advisory Board, a technology startup accelerator at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. He is a 2011 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. So please help me welcome Andy to the stage.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay, good. Hear me in the back, Matt? Good. Well, thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to come speak to you today. I am very excited to be here. As Greg said, I am a proud Clemson graduate. I played 4 years under 2 different coaches, Coach Wilhelm and Coach Leggett. I redshirted my freshman year as well, so I spent 5 years here. I came as a shortstop. Coach Wilhelm said I had deceptive speed, much slower than I looked. So he he said, your arms move faster than your legs, so we need to find a place for you. So ended up catching, had a great experience there. My last year, I got to play for Coach Leggett, which is the current baseball coach, and learned a lot about leadership, management, just two great Hall of Fame baseball coaches that I still pull a lot of great lessons from my experiences playing baseball and my experiences at Clemson. So I'm going to talk to you about my journey in entrepreneurship. I've been reluctant to call myself a serial entrepreneur just because I think you have to do it more than 2 times, and I'm not particularly keen to the word serial because the only other cereals out there are killers. So, you know, I do enjoy the startup process. I enjoy the ideation, creation, team building. It's the only thing I've ever been involved with that that has, you know, you can get into the zone like we did playing baseball. You know, that sense of camaraderie and pulling together and competition and success. It's just, there's nothing like it. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about, kind of in 3 parts. I'll talk about before my entrepreneurship experience and my work experience and what led me to start a company. I'll talk about the first company we started, BroadSource, and then we'll talk about the last company we just started and exited, VendorMate. So when I left Clemson, I, much like a lot of athletes, just, you know, had some, I had desire to play professional baseball. My dad played in the Houston Astros organization. My older brother played at NC State. And when I didn't get drafted after my junior year, it was pretty devastating. You know, every person that comes to Clemson to play baseball has aspirations of playing professional baseball. It's just, it's the path. And so after my junior year, didn't get drafted, I came back to school and told Coach Leggett, look, I just want to play a last year and I'm going to go on into the work world. And so any type of promotion to me to scouts, it's just, I'm not interested in doing that. So had a great year. We finished #1 in the country, the regular season that year. We lost out in the regional, but Bobby Robinson, the athletic director, had offered me a graduate assistantship. I'd been here already 5 years, so another 2, why not? I didn't know what to do anyways, so I went home and talked to some friends who had been out of school for a while, and the idea of getting off mom and dad's back from you know, the bills and putting some money in my pocket was really attractive. And so I went on a couple interviews, and I got a job offer for sales for a company called AllNet Communications. It was long distance. We were selling long distance back when it was 33 cents a minute, and for AT&T it was 33, and we were offering it for 25 for business telephone service, and had an option between Nashville and Memphis, and I'd never spent much time in Nashville. I knew Memphis, so I said, I'm going to Memphis. And so I packed my car and I drove to Memphis not knowing a soul, and started in a sales group for AllNet Communications. And this is, you know, one of those sales boot camps where we're up at 7:30 in the morning and we've got an hour training every single day. And you cold call all day long, you don't know anybody, and you're cold calling, knocking on doors every single hour until 5 o'clock. You come back to the office for an hour at 5 o'clock, and you go through basically another training session for an hour. So it was hardcore, knocking on doors, you know, great training, you know, knocking on 50 doors a day. Met my wife there at AllNet. She was in our training class together. So first day, I got a chance to meet my future wife. She's a much better salesperson than I am. In her words, I stink. So I was too involved in trying to explain the solution as opposed to just going, it's cheaper. So I spent a year there at AllNet, and it was a great training ground. And I recommend anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur get some experience in selling. You got to learn how to sell, and you got to say your name, you know, 1,000 times before it's comfortable. You know, my name is Andy Monin. I am Andy Monin. I'm Andy Monin. Andy Monin. I'm Andy Monin. You got to say it over and over again until you're really even comfortable saying your own name, let alone giving a pitch. So, you know, I highly recommend, no matter what your talent or trade or what your experience is, get some sales experience. So, roommate from college, Jeff Miller, calls me and says, hey, Andy, I'm the 6th employee of this company called Incom. We're hiring salespeople. You need to come to Atlanta. I was the 12th employee at Incom. We were selling prepaid calling cards. stored value cards back before they were even retail stores. So it was a great couple years there at Incom where we got to create programs like we sold Wall Street Journal, and for a subscription to Wall Street Journal, you would get a prepaid calling card with 30 minutes of long distance, and it was a retail $15 value. So Claire Off did a program with, so it allowed us to not just do sales, but come up with unique programs in a business development sense that was a lot of fun. So I left Incom. I got a great opportunity to go to MCI. I was starting a prepaid calling card division. At 26, I was the youngest guy on the team. I had the Southeast and Southwest region with agents. And when I went in to tell my boss, who is the still CEO of Incom, Incom is a $1.5 billion prepaid store value company. So they really became the leader in that marketplace. And so much for leaving a startup that ended up having a huge success. But went in to tell him that I'm leaving to go to MCI, and thought, he was going to give me all kinds of thank you for all your hard work, and we did a great job, and you helped. Thanks for giving me all you got. He said, "Get the F out. Get out of here. Pack your stuff. You don't want to be a part of this family. Get out." That was a moment I'll never forget on how to treat people when they're leaving you, when you're going out the door, and you want to treat people the exact opposite of the way this man treated me. And so I went off to MCI, had an amazing experience, another great mentors, and we were agents, and prepaid calling cards were new in retail, and had two great mentors, and a guy named Max Christian and Bob Verplank. Bob Verplank's son is Scott Verplank on the PGA Tour. And they had great relationships. And so we got our MCI prepaid calling cards into Walmart, Sam's Club, Farmore, Costco, and 7-Eleven. We did $67 million in sales in 1 year. I'm sending them $500,000 commission checks a month. It was the most fun success, as a early stage kind of, product at a big company with the opportunity to be very successful. So did that for a few years, then left in 1990 to go to Cable and Wireless, where I met my eventual co-founder of BroadSource. He was an engineer, industrial engineering from Georgia Tech. We were the only two ACC guys in the office, so we went to a lot of lunches and talked about football and basketball, and started talking about the problems and challenges we saw in telecommunications. Challenges that companies didn't know what they were paying. Billing was always wrong. They would disconnect circuits, and still the providers were billing them. My wife, who was at MCI at the time, sold the first frame relay deal in all of Atlanta in the Southeast, and her sales pitch was, "The bill's going to be wrong. I will come here at the 1st of the month to the 5th of the month, and I will make sure that it gets corrected." And that was her sales pitch, because the billing was always so wrong. So we decided we were going to start a company, and we were going to audit phone bills, and we were going to write some software to do that. And this was January of 2000, and Bird's dad was an entrepreneur. My dad had an insurance agency, entrepreneur, and we thought, at the time, that you just needed a business plan and some experience, and you go get $3 million, because everybody was doing it. It was .com. Everybody, plausible business concept. Everybody was getting funded without really much in the way of a product development. Just go get it. Well, we incorporated February 29th of 2000, and bomb happened in March. So we had raised about $500,000 of our $3 million raise, and realized we're stuck because we can't raise the rest. So we kind of went back to the investors and told them our story, and regrouped and said, we're going to be a different kind of business, and we're going to be agents of the telecom providers, and we're going to get a residual based on selling customers. Not only are we going to audit their phone bills, because we get a percentage of that, we're going to leave them with some software, but we're also going to then connect them with new providers of telecommunications. So completely different model. Fortunately, the investors we had were open to it. And so we started to gain customers, build a company, got to about 15, 18 employees, and then we watched the planes go into the towers, 9/11. And as one of the buildings was going down, I just looked at Bird and said, we are so screwed. And if you didn't live through that, not only did we get hit with bomb, but we got hit with business as usual was over. And so everything just got delayed, whether it was a round of funding we were looking for, customer adoption, new hires, it just stopped. So a lot of companies had trouble surviving through that. We went, once again, we retooled and went out and raised a smaller round, and we ended up raising about $8 million in venture capital. And at that point, it was time for me to kind of step out. When you get into a startup, you're one person. You know, you've got financial responsibilities. You know, I had 0 children when we were putting the business plan together to start with at BroadSource. And then all of a sudden, I've got 1 child and another one all the way. You know, you got a house, you got responsibilities, and it's all weighing down on you. You look at the prospects of an exit at some point in total, and it just seems too far out. And fortunately, I had a sugar mama. My wife was working and provided, and she was funding Monin Enterprises, but at some point, she just looked at me and said, "You need to just go get a job like everybody else." And so that hurt, you know, because this was a dream. We wanted to do it. I loved everything that we were doing. I remember driving up to a customer, Marielle, a pharmaceutical company. I just looked at partner. I just said, "I wish we were smarter. I just wish we could figure this out. I wish we could just, you know, figure out how to make this thing go." There were 75 other companies who raised venture capital in the category that we were in. So idea was strong. Everybody believed this was a problem worth solving. A lot of money went into trying to solve this problem. There were just a lot of things that kind of kept us from really hitting scale and growing. So in 2004, I ended up selling my stake in the business to a true serial entrepreneur, a guy named Trip Rackley, Georgia Tech. Trip exited one company for 400, another one for 200, and he's a member at Augusta now. He's done just some amazing things, and he's 5 years older than us. And I remember when we were sitting down talking about selling, he said, "Andy, you got to understand something." And my wife was with me and said, "Look, you know, I'm going to agree to do this because I never wanted to invest in your company. I wanted to buy one of the 2 of you out. I like it. Got a team of guys I want to bring in management. But you have to understand, if this is successful beyond wildest dreams, this is still just a small percentage of my net worth. So don't feel bad if this doesn't work out." So that was a perspective. I had never heard anybody talk about this in a way that was, you're going to be letting go of this baby of yours, which I've never looked at a startup as a baby. I got 4 at home. I have 4 children. So those are the ones it's more of a steward. And I felt that he was going to be a good steward of the business. He had the capability to fund it himself. He had the capability of carrying it forward through the tough times. He had a management team that was ready to own it and go. And so I felt good about letting it go. And so I worked with that team for a year through the management transition. The exit I had in the first one, it put money in our pocket, but it was hard to let it go. That first time is just really hard. But I got to see what it was to start and to finish something. And there's something about that. And I've advised a lot of entrepreneurs about the fact that you need to get on the other side of it. You need to have that exit to go and do it again, to have totality, to understand what it takes to sacrifice early on, what it means to get 4 hours of sleep, to rack up all the credit cards and sell your 401k and rely on your wife to make payroll sometimes. So, you know, to do that and then finally have a check put into your bank account, no matter how big or small, is a sense of accomplishment that, you know, it's hard to know what that really feels like until you've done it. And when you do it, no matter how big or small, I've told other entrepreneurs, you should be proud because you finished the race. And so as I was coming up with the concept of VendorMate, BroadSource, plain and simple, we audited phone bills. We'd walk into Home Depot, they'd give us all their contracts, we'd look through 350 contracts and invoices, we'd come back to them saying, here's where all the billing errors are, and you got 350 phone providers. And they looked at us like, you're crazy. Like, no, you do. And so the idea was literally for VendorMate was if they don't know who they do business with regard to one set of commodities, what would look across everything they buy? So we went back and I got some great counsel from an advisor who had sold a couple different businesses. He said, you need to go just go talk to people. Go take your idea, talk about it. You don't have a product to sell them. Call former customers, call friends, talk to everybody about it. And the first time we were very closed about our business plan. We thought, first-time entrepreneurs, someone's going to steal our idea and take it. I can tell you this, people are too busy with their lives to steal your idea, okay? They just are. I mean, you could hold it back, but if you hold back, nobody knows how to help you. So second go around, great advice was talk to everybody. And he kept a spreadsheet and talked to 100 prospects. And we did the same thing. We talked to Bank of America, Wells Fargo, it was Wachovia at the time, Regions Bank. We went to Dick's Sporting Goods, Family Dollar, Harris Teeter. We went to every possible vertical and company and just interview them. And I'd call them up and I'd say, hey, my name's Andy Monin. Just recently sold our business. I'm looking to start another one. I don't have anything to sell you. So that's not why I'm calling. But I do want some advice. I have some concepts I'd like to better understand what your challenges are in these categories. And every single person we called took our meeting. Every one of them. Because everybody wants to help. Especially when you get to, when you call high and you're not selling them something, but they have an opportunity to give their advice and talk about their business, they're willing to help you. So we did that. We went back and talked to everybody and we charted out what their pains and problems are around vendor management. And it was astounding what we found. Retails wanted to know one thing about their vendors. Banks had issues about know thy customer, know thy vendor issues. And we stumbled into healthcare, hospitals. I mean, it was not our number one vertical. We applied to the Advanced Technology Development Center, the ATDC, and our first financial model, which I built. Don't trust a political science major to build your financial model. Because it said we were going to do $17 million in the first year. And the guy just said, let him go. He can sell it, let him go. So it was wrong. It took us a few years to get there, but we got there eventually. But hospitals, a friend of mine, and part of kind of just talking to everybody about the idea, I called a friend of mine, Dr. Frank Newlands, who I grew up with, and said, Dr. Frank, what do you think? Does this sound, vendor management? He said, oh my God, it's a huge problem. We got reps running around the hospital. We don't know who's coming, who's going. There's multiple points of entry. There's no real buying process. We don't know where to go. Everybody's cold calling. They're giving us vouchers to go to dinner with them. They call them educational, but they're steak restaurants and all the wine you want to drink, they'll take us to Cabo. Yes, we got a problem with vendor management. And so he advised us to go talk to Memorial Health down in Savannah, Georgia, which we met with a compliance officer. All the while, we thought banks were going to be our number one vertical. Retail, Home Depot had 111,000 vendors. And our model was vendors pay for registration. Okay, they pay anywhere from between $50, $25 to $250, okay, depending on their risk profile. So we're thinking, gosh, Home Depot, 110,000 times average $100, a lot of money. Simple math. That's all you have to do is get a couple customers. It doesn't work out that way. But hospitals, chief compliance officer, this girl, Mary Ann Bill, said, you need to go to, yes, this is a big issue. You're helping us with, she pulls this diagram out of hospitals in the middle, and she shows all these regulatory agencies around it, and she goes, people complain that hospitals can't run like a business because all these people are in our business. So you're going to help me with this and this and this and this and this and this. And she said, and you need, not only going to sign up as a customer, but I need you to go to the Healthcare Association trade show, Healthcare Compliance Association trade show in Las Vegas, which, right, Vegas compliance, that doesn't, but anyways, we went. And so at that show, we were advised not to go to trade shows early on. Don't burn the cash to go to a trade show. It's a waste of, but we did it anyways. And the keynote speaker at this trade show was the head of Health and Human Services Inspector General, Daniel Levinson. And in his keynote address, there's 2,000 compliance officers from hospitals across the country in the room, and he says, I want to thank all of you, all compliance officers, all 2,000 of you, for credentialing doctors and nurses, for providing a safer environment and doing a better job of making sure that our doctors and our nurses are credentialed, that they actually went to school, that they've got the proper qualifications. You've made healthcare a safer place. He said, I'm in charge of Medicaid, Medicare fraud, and it's out of control. And so now I need you to turn your focus and attention to vendors, contractors, and consultants. I need you to credential them and know who you're doing business with. And if you don't do it, I'm going to find you. I'm going to fine you significantly. And if there's fraud going on, you're going to jail. And you could hear a pin drop. We were the only vendor at the show that had a solution for registration and credentialing at that show. So our pitch at the show completely changed from, we're a hospital vendor credentialing solution that helps you with compliance and these to, did you hear what he said? Completely changed. And we got back, you talk about some of the seminal moments in your professional career, and we got back from that show. We still had deals in the pipeline. We had Peak Fitness, which had a race car that ran around the track, and they were a customer because every time that track, on Monday, they'd get back to the office and they'd have 150 cold calls from vendors saying, I want to sell to you, and they wanted a place to put them. Salsaritas was a customer. We had a bunch of, no particular kind of vertical jumped at us like this, and we sat around a room, and I just looked at everybody and I said, look, what do you think about if we just abandon every other vertical and we're going to go straight after hospitals? It's just, fewer vendors, but there are more hospitals. And to a person, there was 9 people in the room, and we bet the entire company on this idea. And so that was a huge, huge moment because my older brother was working with us. He had spent the last year and a half selling. Family Dollar was threatening to sign with us. I think they're still threatening to sign, but they never will. But so his pipeline was basically going to get wiped out completely, and we were going to start anew. But everybody agreed it was the right thing to do, and that was just a huge moment in our entire lives because we were the first to come to market with that. And then very soon after, a lot of competitors started popping up. We had, probably 10 competitors, 11 competitors that popped up, but we were the first, and we decided we were going to build a software solution that was going to be at our core. We're going to be a software company. And ultimately, that was a big differentiation in our business because it wasn't just registration. We started at registration, but we had to figure out how to innovate and get inside the hospital a lot deeper. And so, because when the vendors would call, they didn't like the idea that we were asking them to register their company. They didn't like the idea that we were doing background checks on them. They didn't like the idea that they had to pay. And so we got called extortionist. We got called this cottage industry of for pay. I'm calling the attorney general. I mean, it was crazy. It's denial and they didn't want to do it. And I get it because we completely disintermediated them from their customer. We got right in the middle of them. And so they were asked to register. They didn't register. And so we had to come up with a different, we got lots of hospitals to sign. They wanted the product. They needed to solve this problem, but the vendors weren't registering. They weren't registering because of the payment. They weren't registering because it wasn't easy to register. And so there wasn't a hook to catch them. And so one day we were talking to a customer, and I just said, what are you doing around badging? He goes, what do you mean? He's like, vendors, what are you doing about that? Everybody's walking around, doctors, nurses, they got multiple badges for access to get in, but these vendors are just, how do you know who's a vendor? Well, the vendors typically are dressed in suits, and we can identify them pretty easily. And I said, no, but what if we could build a badging solution that literally, we'll call it caveman badging. Badge good, no badge bad. And literally you as administrator, because there's 80 points of access in these hospitals, can identify who should have a badge and tell them to go get a badge. And if they don't come back with the badge, you don't let them have access to the OR, to patient carriers, because they're posing a risk. Because what we did is we registered them, not only company, but also that rep. If he's supposed to be in the OR, we were capturing immunization records, we were capturing product competency. So if he didn't have that on file, he shouldn't be in that OR. So light bulb. Customer said, absolutely. We designed a solution that basically badged the vendors that they came in. It was tied to our compliance engine, just an innovative solution that hadn't been thought of. And the innovation came from printing it on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper and folding it up and putting it into a badge holder. So it wasn't a sleek, neat, hard badge or anything. It was literally what's a low-cost solution that we can distribute very easily. And our head of product came up with that concept. And to this day, people are still badging. We printed almost 2.5 million badges last year in hospitals across the United States. So that was a key moment again in because we were running hard, signing up customers, but they weren't registering. So we weren't getting the adoption. Soon customers, the customers are not going to be referenceable customers. We can't get them registered. So we saw a huge spike in registrations. So we raised about $3 million and passed the HAD LLC and angel money. The management team participated in that, which I thought was awesome. And that the guys that came on board, I said, look, you want equity in the business, we'll give you options, but also you participate in this round, and they all did. So they got preferred equity in the business, and we were off and running. We came into 2008, and the business was going strong, revenue, but there was some fatigue. I think you get to about 3 years in business life cycle, and people get antsy, good or bad. I mean, whether the company's going well or the company's going bad. If after 2008 and you saw what happened to the financial markets, everybody got skittish again, and so everybody wanted their money. Everybody wanted the investors, they wanted to monetize what we had done. So we basically hired a banker, an investment banker. We ran a process, sent our book to 30 different 15 sponsors, financial sponsors, private equity firms, and 15 companies. We ran a management process. We got to the very end, and this public company pulled out within about 2 weeks. We'd gone through a whole diligence process with them. We wanted a $100 million valuation, and they came back at about 60. So we pulled out. So we went back down, heads down. We're going to keep running. Another company called us up and said, hey, listen, we're interested. We'll hit that $100 million number. Went through diligence, got to the end, retrade. So back down, heads down, let's keep running the business. This all, by the way, took 18 months for us to finalize. Good friend growing up, it was my brother's class, Phil Molnar. He's managing director of a private equity firm in Cleveland. He said, look, we don't need to buy 100% of this business. Why don't we buy a majority? You guys roll over, and we'll run this business out till it truly hits its full maximum capacity. So the guys that wanted to get out, they were able to get out. The early investors, some of the early management team, my brother, a lot of folks were able to take their money off the shelf, out of the company, and we were able to move on. It was kind of that second stage, which was awesome. We closed that out, and it was a 3 to 5 year plan with this private equity firm. We're going to go 3 to 5 years, and we're going to get a 3 to 5 times return from that point. And everybody's scared of private equity and how forceful they are, and I don't know whether it's just because I had a pre-existing relationship with Phil, but it was awesome. We had pretty good structural financial reporting before, but afterwards they came and gave us a book and rigor around managing our KPIs and our business, which we didn't have. We had a very solid CFO, but now we had some reporting that we knew our business a lot better as a result. So while the core business, our credentialing business, was going great, we had to reinvent some growth, because the market was starting to taper off in growth because we're gobbling up all the hospitals. They were either buying us, or a company called RepTrax was gobbling up these. So we decided we were going to redefine who we were. And so I took our CTO, and we went up to the 10th floor, and we had 145 people on the 3rd floor, and everybody's like, why are you going to the 10th floor? And I'm like, because we got to go innovate. We got to figure out, we got to get back to inventing and innovating new product that's going to spur our growth. And so he and I spent about a year up there, and we started to add, with the board's help, and vetted probably 20 different ideas. We were either going to build, we were going to buy, so we looked at about 9 acquisitions, or we were going to partner. And ultimately we built about 3 new products. So we went from just a rep credentialing business, we built a contract management tool. We built a reporting package for the vendors. We built an e-marketplace where all 70,000 vendors now can start selling through this and put RFQs together. So we literally went upstairs and continued to have to innovate, and then we came back downstairs to the 3rd floor to operationalize it. And so we got traction in each of those different products and showed that growth trajectory that was what we were looking for. And we got an unsolicited bid from a strategic that we turned down. And about 6 months later, we said, look, let's start looking at, before we run the process, let's go meet a bunch of companies. So we went to Oracle, we went to a lot of the large ERP companies, and we ultimately saw that this company, GHX, Global Healthcare Exchange, had just been acquired by Thoma Bravo, a large private equity firm. And I sent an in-mail to Seth Borrow, who is the managing director at Tom Bravo, and I just said, Seth, congratulations on the acquisition of GHX. We've admired that company for years. When the dust settles, I'd love to have the opportunity to introduce VendorMate and tell you our story, because I think it'd be a good fit. A month later, I get a call from the GHX CEO, and he said, look, we're very interested in what you guys are doing. This is April of last year. Give us a little bit of time to let the dust settle, and we'll get back in touch. So in June, we had that meeting, and it just took off from there. And we closed the transaction in November, and it was a great transaction for everybody. When you look at doing a deal, you want to make sure that all the constituents are taken care of. And so our customers, we know, are in good hands. We know that our vendors are in good hands. Our employees are in fantastic shape, because they didn't have anything, they didn't have the talent that we had in these areas. So it was reported, and I can't confirm or deny, in the Atlanta Business Chronicle, but it was $220 million. So roughly, who knows? And so you think about kind of raising $3 million and having an exit somewhere in that. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it kind of hits you that you built something that's $250 million worth of value. And we did it in the way that was, I wouldn't say non-traditional, but we built it, we wanted to build a great business. We wanted to make money while we slept, which we did. We didn't want to be dependent on the next customer to make payroll. We wanted to make sure that we don't sell to a CTO ever again. No offense to CTOs, just you take too long. And ultimately, we wanted to have a lot of fun, and we accomplished each one of those things along the way. And there's 4 of us that were kind of left of the original management team: our CFO, CTO, President, COO, and me. And so now part of the terms of the deal was, as of December 31st, we can start another company together. So we are out of a job. My LinkedIn profile title is nothing for now. I'll be doing something here soon enough. We're trying to figure it out, but it's been an incredible journey, and it's 15 years of a lot of sweat, tears. You're going to lose something. I like to say, when you're doing startups and you put your heart and soul in something, you're going to lose something. And hopefully, it's just sleep. But you can lose relationships. You can lose money. You can lose your integrity. You're tested all the way around, and it's a great game. So that's my story.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
So you spoke really intimately about the exit step for an entrepreneur, related it to parenthood, stewardship. So what did you know at the time of your second exit that you had wished you had known for that very first exit when you were doing something brand new?
It's a good question. So what did I know? What did I learn from the second exit that I wish I had known in the first? There were 2 completely different outcomes and experiences. I think I was better at the relationship part of managing with my co-founder, with my brother, with everybody. I felt like I was much more mature, and I knew how to handle a lot better. I can remember in a really tense moment in Broadsource, I came in and I kicked the garbage can and stuff went flying everywhere. I was young, and I think the second time it's just a lot easier, and you have a sense of it's going to work out one way or another, and emotionally just more mature. So I regret kicking that garbage can. So yeah.
You said you went up on the 10th floor.
Yeah.
It's a real interesting thing. I assume that in some level of isolation from the day-to-day activities.
Yes.
Maybe the answer's obvious, but how did that work? Why did it work? Because that's not always the best strategy.
So the question was, went to the 10th floor in the second version of VendorMate to go build new product, and there was some factors that allowed us. One, my CTO was a VP of technology at the time. And we had a very, the business was flying. Our president and CEO had it. Our CFO was just, he was money. He was great. And our CTO, our VP of technology, I needed him to stop coding. I needed him to start acting like a CTO. And I had a very direct conversation with him, which is, Paul, I can't give you this title of CTO to start acting like a CTO. And you're still doing the things that a developer does, that an architect does, and you got to let that go. So physically removing us from the third floor and trusting his sergeants, it was cathartic. I mean, the guys continue to, Gopal just tells me, look, that was the moment in my professional career that I changed. And I became a CTO, and he is incredible. But going to the 10th floor and separating, just my ideation creation process, I have to get fully involved, and it requires losing time. It requires just going to a place that you can't be that lead in the company that you can't be that cheerleader that I am, and you can't do those things because it's hard to go from the intensity of trying to create and research and thought and then break out and, hey, let's have a happy hour. It's just hard to do that. So separating it from the business it helped in two ways. It helped Gopal and really making him think more strategically and disconnecting him literally physically from his sergeants. And then it was just a way that he and I could just immerse ourselves in the problem and try to find a solution. So it worked for us. Yeah.
You talked about getting tested.
Yeah.
Some of the challenges you face. Where do you get that motivational drive to move forward when you get tested and you feel like you're that little problem?
The question was, where do I get that just motivation to keep going when obstacles are in the way? And other entrepreneurs have said the same thing. If I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, would I do what again? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's stupid. What I went through, put my family through, what I, my 14-year-old still remembers. He's like, you were never home. You were always working. I mean, just that part of it. You're going to lose something, but the goal, right? What's the goal? My wife and I are pretty good about talking about our personal missions and goals and what we want to do in life, and we've got a higher purpose, and so this was something that is going to facilitate and allow us to do that. So unbelievable support. If my wife hadn't supported me, I'd have been done long ago. I would have gotten another job. She ended up coming on board and selling for us for about 2 years. So I think you got to believe, man. You got to be blind to it. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs that they're going to run off the cliff. They see it, but they think maybe they're going to grow wings. And if you believe in something, I think you can brainwash yourself. I really do. I mean, if you're not a positive person, you can brainwash yourself to be positive. If you can be an optimist. Anybody can be an optimist. And if you stay up late enough and you don't exercise very much, you are in a position to be brainwashed. So, I'm telling you, just as long as you keep that vision of what you want to be, and it's a good thing, or it can be a bad thing. You can. I've seen guys spiral into a bad place after going through this process. So I feel lucky to have gone through it and come out somewhat intact. So it's good. Yeah.
Talk about fear. Somebody stealing your idea. Did you ever have that, or did you just go out and just start sharing your idea, like you said?
So my first partner, Bird Blitz, his name's Bird Blitz, B-I-R-D Blitz, and Georgia Tech, ran for student body president. His campaign slogan was, when life is a blitz, give it the bird, which he lost. But I look back, and he didn't want to tell anybody. I mean, he was very reluctant to kind of, I think in the second go around, I just learned nobody knows how to help you if you don't talk about it. And if you're a one-hit wonder, then maybe you should kind of do something like this, right? Because it's the only good idea you got, and you want to protect it. the swoozy or whatever, maybe it's the only thing you can come up with, but if you really have this in your blood and you're a problem solver, you got to tell as many people as you can. And you got to talk about it all the time, to the point where your wife tells you to shut up and stop talking about it. Because it's the only way, it's that one connection. Like one of the guys that invested in us early is a guy named Mark Buffington, who played baseball at Georgia Tech. He had just sold his hedge fund in California. He and I were good buddies. I didn't even know he's back in Atlanta. He took me to the Masters, and on the way back from the Masters, we were in business together. So you don't know. And he said, I had no idea that you did it. I said, I had no idea that you did it. So you don't even know what's around you unless you talk about it. So in my experience, the benefits of telling everyone far outweigh the risk of somebody trying to steal your idea exactly how you think it's going to be executed. It's ludicrous. So it's a no-brainer, I think. Yeah.
So thank you, Andy. Love your story. Do you find it then beneficial going in with a partner starting a business versus going it solo?
So I don't think I've started 2 software companies and never written a line of code. So I can't do this by myself. And I think depending on what your skill sets are and what your company, the idea of what your company will eventually be, you have to make sure that any critical skill sets you need to entice them and incent them to think like an owner. So we were very liberal in our options and equity to the employees. In the first recap, everybody got something. And it was a joyful day. I mean, everybody got something. So I think a partner in the second one, I was the founder of VendorMate. But man, I had a lot of, we call it the founding team. We had a lot of people on that founding team. The cap table may have shown I was the founder, but there were a lot of people that helped. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. If you're building an iPhone app and you know how to code, maybe you don't need any partners. I think it's just, you need to assess what you're good at and what you're capable of and what do you need, and then what's the appropriate amount of incentive that's going to get somebody interested to the point where they're going to quit their job, come working full-time, and give you all they got as an owner. You got to do that.
What are your top 2 or 3 skills as a CEO that you would encourage people to develop? Skills or competencies?
So in 2010 when we did the recap, we all sat down at the table and said, okay, we know we have the capability to get a company to this far. But I asked them, I don't know that, and the humility of saying, I don't know that I'm the guy to take it to the next level, right? I'd never done it before. Not saying I can't do it. I just had never done it. So to take it from, a point where there's a private equity firm to eventual, either IPO or going public, or another exit, the skill set changed a lot for me. I went from a renegade ideation creation, hair on fire, recruiting customers, recruiting employees, in product, customers, taking customer service calls, doing everything, to hiring good, solid people that you can trust, right? Firing people that just aren't working out, to setting a vision that everybody believes in, is willing to quit their job. My president and CEO had a consultancy, was making a lot of money, and he quit it to come do this full time. So you got to be a visionary. You got to set high goals. You got to walk the walk, man. You can't. If you're saying that this is the way the world works and you're doing something contrary to that, you've lost all credibility with people and you're done. So, that's kind of the early stage stuff. And then I think you got to demonstrate in a more mature business that you're a business person, right? And we haven't had our closing dinner yet, which we're having next month. But Bill, in kind of rehashing the deal, Phil said, look, the team we've got, if we could duplicate the 4 of you guys in any of our portfolio companies, we would kill it. We'd love to have that. He said there were 2 moments where you guys demonstrated how good you guys are. He said the first one was we had invested for 3 years consecutively $4 million in business development, and it was time to turn off the tap because we're getting close to needing to run a process and selling. And at a board meeting, they brought it up, and they weren't forceful. They just said, look, I think our investment's on the field. Let's see if we can monetize it. And you guys, in 2 days, internalized it. You guys accepted it. We recommended cuts in the business, which we never had. We ended up firing about 16 people, which was really hard to do. One of my little brother. Oh, Mom. So that showed a level of maturity, right? That of being a business, a steward of the business. And then the other one was just during the process of selling the business. We had literally, we had built this business with the idea that we were going to exit it. So the diligence process was so smooth because we had always operated as if we were going to be diligent ready. And so he said that level of profession, that you guys were ready for that and that we could pull the trigger as quickly as we did, was something that was astounding. So, you know, can you go create something and then can you go manage something? I think they're two different. This is a cheerleader, excited, you know, get people going, but being a good business person. But this is doing a lot, wearing a lot of hats. So two different types of CEOs, I think. Cool.
Any other questions? One more? No? All right, let's give Andy a...
Thank you.
We have, this is actually the second tiger print of the day. Woody Bryan gave all the Squirrel Board members something that he had done, but we know Andy's a tiger and he'll find some place for you.
I got it. Thank you so much. Thank you, bud.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So if you guys would like to enjoy a reception that's set up for you, please stay and introduce yourself and meet each other. Thank you for coming.